To open us up in a word of prayer, if y'all don't mind. Please bow with me. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. And Lord, please just guide us and lead us as we make decisions for the citizens of this state. Help us to not forget you and to include you in everything that we do up here. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey. While they're chatting for a second, there will be a subcommittee hearing tomorrow, the Kirby subcommittee. You should have got notice out today at 3 o'clock, same room. And tomorrow we're hearing House Bill 184 tomorrow at 3 o'clock. As we discussed early on, our practice is going to be to try to have our testimony in subcommittee. And if someone has something else they want to testify to today, I'll still give you a chance to speak. But try to have most of our discussion on these bills in the subcommittee. And then the following meeting, if it gets out of subcommittee, have our votes in full committee. So today we're back in full. And with that, I'll go ahead and recognize Representative Werkheiser and ask you to, again, just review briefly the bill and address anything that was brought up. Actually, before we do that, let me do this first. Vice Chairman Kirby, can you give us a subcommittee report? Anything that was discussed or you want to bring up from the subcommittee on this bill before we start? I surprised you with that one.
That one. No, I wasn't really prepared, but we can give you a quick update. Of course, we did vote it do pass, and there was not a dissenting, I can't even speak today, vote on it. The testimony we heard from several people was all in support of the bill, and hopefully Representative Werkheiser will kind of give us a good summary again today.
All right. Thank you. Sorry to surprise you with that. So with that, I'll hand it over. Representative Werkheiser, let me turn you. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Strickland and members of the committee. There has been no changes or substitutes, so we should be on LC 363200. And it's in its original format. Basically, this is a preemptive addition to existing law for a list of items that the state of Georgia would like to see us remain consistent on. And specifically, we're adding scheduling to a list. As I mentioned in sub, I know this committee is well aware that we're the #1 state in which to do business, and that comes from a host of things, starting with the governor's office and a super strong economic development office department, our technical colleges which are engaged. The one component that may be overlooked sometimes is our role in this, and it's legislation that makes our state business friendly. And so what this item does, it adds scheduling to a list of items to make sure that our state remains consistent and whole, and it prevents cities or counties from enacting local legislation that would require a company, existing companies or companies that are looking at us from using predictive scheduling, which means scheduling that is far in advance. One thing that was brought up, and I want to make very clear, and thank you, Vice Chair Kirby, for bringing this to our attention at the last meeting, is that this does not prevent a company from doing this. But it prevents a city or county from mandating that you're doing this, and I think that's a big difference. And it just makes our state easy to deal with and compliant, because you could literally have a chain that was a city or county away having different policies. In fact, one of the associations, and there's a lot of people that are supporting this, including the Georgia Association of Retailers. I don't know that the Georgia Chamber has come out with their official statement. I was told verbally that they had vetted it and they were in support of it. But it makes it consistent so that it makes it easy to deal with. Predictive scheduling is a tool used by some companies. In fact, I don't know if they use this term, but my wife actually in a nurse setting has predictive scheduling, and we talked about in sub how it's beneficial to the employer, And one of the things that my friend Representative McCain was bringing up, but what about the employee? It actually helps them too, because as my wife, having fallen unpredictable, it can be very frustrating to try to work around a schedule that's 3 months out in advance, because you don't know what's coming up. And so we fight this in our household. But we knew what it was going in, and, you know, she's fine with it. But, so again, if a company wants to do this, this is fine. This simply prevents a municipality or a county from enacting local legislation that would require an existing or an incoming business to fall under additional regulations. So I don't want to talk it to death, so with that, I'll open it for questions.
Any questions for the author? Representative Park?
Representative Werkheiser, thank you for bringing this bill. I think during subcommittee, I had my line of questioning was along the lines of whether or not there are any current cities, municipalities, counties that have predictive scheduling. I believe you had mentioned previously.
No cities or counties do,
Mhm.
but there may be businesses that do.
This bill would create additional legislation that doesn't necessarily address an existing problem, especially given how predictive scheduling can be a benefit to both employees and employers. Is that correct?
Well, it's adding legislation, it's not creating new, because if you look at the bill, there's already a list of predictive items that we exclude cities and counties from doing, so we're adding just the scheduling to the existing law.
Thank you.
Sure.
Representative McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and also thank you, Representative Werkheiser, for being. I guess at that time when you brought the bill up, I talked about business, I talked about all those things, but I hadn't had a chance to talk to some of the employees, and I have had a chance to talk to some of the employees, and their concern to me is that this would make it harder, the possibility of employers potentially abusing or manipulating the employee schedule in ways that it make it more difficult for working parents to hold their jobs. So anyway, to make a long story short, the employees are not really feeling this piece of legislation. And I think when I was here, I kind of mentioned it, but I hadn't talked to any, but since then I have. And the other thing that they were, I guess it is a question. So do you think that employers could abuse?
I don't see how. I mean, that's a pretty broad stroke. You'd have to give me an example of how it would hurt the employee, because I don't see how it would.
If I manipulated the schedule and not giving you 24 hours notice?
No, this is talking about 25 days out. Most predictive scheduling works on very long range, and so the example I gave was if someone had scheduled an event and either a convention or whatever, and let's say we had like the recent in Southwest Georgia Hurricane Matthew, and the event gets scheduled, this would prevent, if they had predictive scheduling, that's okay. If they do, then they would have to pay them, but this would prevent cities and counties from forcing them to have that policy in advance, where if that employee got canceled 25 days out, which is, I mean, a month's notice, you can generally get babysitting or whatever services you need taken care of. So it's really long range. It's not short range.
Can I have a follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
And I told you I had an opportunity to talk to employees, but I also had a chance to talk to some of the folks in the cities as well. Mm-hmm. And their biggest concern was, why do they have to be put into a lump of and not let them allow them to do make their own decision? Why would the state need to make a decision for them and lump all the big cities with the small cities and the counties as well?
Okay, well, I would answer that question with the exact same question. Why would that business want to be under the direction of a city or county when they've got that direction? Again, this does not prevent a company from doing this. This just prevents a city or county mandating that they have to. So as a state, we're saying we're not going to allow that to happen. But if they want to do it, they're welcome to it. So that's what I'm saying. It's really to the advantage of the employer-employee because they both know going in.
What I said was, why not allow the cities or the counties to make that decision other than the employer to make that decision? That was my question, I'm sorry.
Okay. We just feel as a business, to make it more business-friendly, that we shouldn't have cities and counties dictating to businesses how they should run their business. So it's just being preventive in the measure and saying they can't. Again, the businesses can do it if they want to. We just don't feel like they should be mandated.
Thank you.
Representative Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Werkheiser, thank you for bringing this piece of legislation. I think it does give a business-friendly posture for the state. And we've sort of danced around relationships. You clearly define an employee in your bill. Relationships as far as independent contractors. We sort of danced around that a little bit about independent contractors and their relationship with a business entity. If the business offered an independent contractor any of the benefits offered to their employees, would that establish an employer relationship?
In my personal opinion, I do not know if someone wants to testify differently, because someone is either an employee or an independent contractor. So I don't think they can be both. So I would not think this would affect.
Okay.
But it's a great question, though.
But we've sort of danced around that as far as independent contractors too. Thank you.
Sure.
Vice Chairman Kirby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it just kind of seems like we kind of muddied things. All of this bill is really doing is telling government, city, county, even the state, is not going to tell a business how they have to schedule employees. That a business can schedule their employees, whether if their policy says we're going to schedule you 2 weeks out, they'll schedule 2 weeks out. If there's a policy or practice or a CBA in place that has scheduling, or if its schedule changes the requirements and how that works, that stays in place. It's just keeping government from dictating to a business how they'll schedule employees. That's correct?
That is exactly correct, and I think that's a great explanation. And I hope that helps with Representative McLean, because that's exactly right.
Appropriate time, I'll make a motion.
All right, hold on. Representative Park, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Getting a better understanding of all these preemption laws, would it not be beneficial for municipalities, especially in trying to draw small businesses to them, to have the ability to enact ordinances or laws that would be favorable to certain small businesses? I understand with large businesses, some consistency and stability across municipalities and counties would be beneficial. But for small cities in South Georgia or Middle Georgia that's trying to bring business, would this preemption law or preemption laws generally hinder their ability to grow their economies?
Okay. As one being from South Georgia, and that's being a great interest of mine, I would say absolutely not. Because again, a business can do what they want to. We just think it's, no matter how small or big the business is, that if you're mandating how a business has to operate, then you're not helping the sales pitch of the municipality, the county, or the state. So I think it does exactly the opposite. It's helping sell our state as business friendly. Because again, we're not eliminating any choice that they want to make. We just want to eliminate the possibility of them mandating how you've got to run your business.
Thank
Representative, I think for me, I think I look at this a little bit differently versus getting into the idea of should a business do this or not do this. To me, this code section, this amendment to it, really deals with, do we want to delegate or give the power to a local government to regulate businesses? Is that their job? Is that what they're supposed to be doing? Because all these things in here are ways a local government could backdoor regulate a business. Is that kind of the purpose of this whole code section?
That is correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for the author? Anybody else want to speak to the bill? All right. With that, I'll be happy to take a motion. Vice Chairman Kirby,
Mr. Chairman, I move do pass.
do we have a second? We have a second. Any amendments to the bill? Hearing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed, state no. Ayes have it. Your bill is on to rules.
All right, thank you, Chairman.
And once again,
members.
tomorrow, 3 o'clock, same room with Vice Chairman Kirby and the subcommittee. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sign it. Yeah.